Welcome to my latest batch of mini reviews where I basically review 7 films in the time that it would normally take me to review just one. So these are meant to be very, very quick reviews. In this series I tend to focus more on lesser known films, standalone films, but don't hold it against me if something like The Evil Dead 2 pops up. There's no Evil Dead 2. So let's get into it. I'm going to take these in the exact order that I watched them over the past month or so. So I guess we'll begin with this one. This is a film about a group of youngsters who are driving off on a weekend away to one of their parents' cabins in the woods. This isn't secretly The Evil Dead 2, I promise you. Can I just say, by the way, that when I was a teenager, I never had a friend whose parents had a lodge or a cabin in the woods. I'm not bitter or anything. The cabin in this film, though, never comes into play because halfway there, these youngsters, they have to take a detour through the woods because the freeway is closed for some reason. And then the car breaks down in the woods, obviously, and there's no phone reception, and they're in big trouble because it's winter, and if they don't find a way to get out of these woods, it's going to be really, really cold overnight, like freezing cold temperatures. And I think that's the scariest thing about this film. It feels very believable. I thought to myself, this could happen to me or anyone. It'd be so easy to end up in this situation. We do get this secondary element that comes into play with the whole witch thing. So it turns out that this area where the car's broken down, it just so happens to be like a witch's ritual ground from the olden days or something, and this awakens something in one of the girls on this trip. It turns out she's like a potential witch or something. So for the rest of the film, she starts sabotaging all the other characters' attempts to get out of the woods, and people start getting picked off one by one. So it's like half survival film, half witch film, I guess. I found the survival concept far more fascinating, but the witch stuff is fine as well. What's also interesting is that the main final girl in this, her boyfriend is on the trip with her, but she's also cheating on him with one of the other guys on the trip. That's something you never really see with a final girl, you know, that she would have a boyfriend and be cheating on him. So some interesting characterization and a fairly decent film. I really enjoyed this actually. It does fade a little bit, I'd say, in the last sort of 20-25 minutes, but absolutely worth checking out. It's not a film that I would buy, but if you see it on a streaming platform, absolutely give it a try. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. I said in another video that not a lot of horror films seem to be getting released cinematically these days. Countdown was a film that did, albeit 3 years ago now. I didn't see it at the time, but it's one of those films that just seems to have been on every streaming platform under the sun. I've lost count of the amount of times that I've seen Countdown pop up in front of me when I'm scrolling through various menus, and I've always thought to myself, not today, just leave me alone. I think I just got beaten into submission by this film, and eventually I watched it, and I wish I'd not bothered. It's really bad. It's like a variation on Final Destination, I'd say. So in that series, characters are predetermined to die. In Countdown, they're predetermined to die at a certain time of the day, so it sort of takes the concept a step further, but it just makes the whole thing really restrictive as to what you can do. I was mildly entertained by this for the first sort of 15-20 minutes. First couple of kills are alright, the main final girl's okay, I guess, but the plot has got nowhere to go, to the point where they introduce this sex pest doctor subplot, which is just tiresome. And in the second half, I was so bored. I was on my phone like a lot of the time. There is this one funny guy who's like a side character. He's like the owner of a phone shop, and he's really bad at dating. He was quite amusing, but on the whole, this film is pretty dreadful, I've got to say. It makes me sad that this film got a cinematic release. There are so many great horror films that get nowhere near a cinema. I wonder if they intended for this to be like the next big Final Destination type franchise. I don't know, but that was never going to happen because this film absolutely stinks. 1 out of 5. This is a film which attempts to bring back old school practical effects for monsters like John Carpenter's The Thing, and they do an excellent job with it. I was so impressed, and it did leave me wondering, why can't more films have great practical effects like this? The trouble is, the effects in this film were the only thing that really impressed me about it, so the plot is a little bit confusing for me to sort of remember. So a bunch of characters get holed up in a hospital. there are monsters in there with them. There are all these mysterious robed characters just hanging around outside, a little bit like Alice Cooper and his mob in Prince of Darkness. And it all gets very otherworldly and cerebral, and the characters have to get down into this basement, and we're never quite sure what's reality, what's not. There's like dream sequences and things. I think I'd have to watch this film a second time to fully get my head around what was going on with the plot. Maybe that's part of the problem as to why I didn't quite get it. I might not have been in the right mood for it, to be honest. So this is a film which I'm probably going to give another chance in the future. I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5 today. It's worth getting half of the possible marks just for the practical effects. I suspect that I'm being a little bit of a curmudgeon on this one, though. I reckon most of the horror community would give this film more than 2.5 out of 5, so just bear that in mind. Holy shit, this is a bad film. I was taken in by the picture art for this. I was scrolling through Amazon Prime, I think. I came across this film. I thought the picture above the title looked quite interesting, so I decided to watch it, and boy did I pick the unlucky ball out of the bag. This film is absolutely atrocious. It's about a game show. It's like a reality TV type thing. So the contestants, I'd say there's about 20 of them, they have to go into these walled off rooms in isolation and just stay there, and it's like an endurance test. So the last one to come out is the winner, and they get $1 million. Oh no, I think it might be $2 million actually. They get passed food through a slit, and there's like a toilet in the corner of their cell. So this could potentially go on for weeks, months. It's like an experiment. So once the film gets going, the camera just moves from cell to cell, and we see how the contestants are getting on. And of course, after a few days of this, they start to go stir crazy and singing songs and banging their heads against walls and stuff. You know, they're going out of their mind. And I'm thinking to myself halfway through this, okay, we've got something of a setup, let's see where it goes, but it goes nowhere. Literally, we just keep moving from cell to cell for about an hour and a half. Nobody gets let out. Even when they try and give the secret signal because they've had enough, they never get let out. And then we cut to credits, and that's it. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I just wasted like an hour and a half, 2 hours on this, and the film just goes nowhere and then ends? Absolutely ridiculous. No doubt the director will pass this off as some kind of social commentary worth some kind of social point worth making or something. It wasn't at all. It's just really, really bad. I'll give it half a point for an interesting setup, but it does absolutely nothing with it. I feel totally trolled by this movie. I think the actors were being trolled. I mean, you know, actors will do anything to get a credit, you know, get their name out there, but why would you want to be in this film and just be filmed like masturbating in a cell and going crazy in a cell? It's just a really silly film. Do not watch it at all costs. Half a point out of 5. This one's better, thankfully. So yeah, we are back into the realm of the good horror movie with Just Before Dawn. This one came out in 1981, I believe, which would place it square in the middle of the golden generation of slashers, if you like. So this features a group of youngsters. Actually, they're probably more like 20-somethings. One of them has inherited a piece of remote land, and they want to go and check that out. But it turns out that where this land is, it's being occupied by like a homeless family who have made the land their own, and they take exception to these outsiders coming in trying to claim their land. So these mysterious characters start to pick off the protagonists one by one. There is a good slow build-up in this film, though. We do get to know the characters as they're making their way towards this area. The film stars Greg Henry, who went on to have a pretty decent acting career. I did recognise him, albeit he's the youngest in this film that I've ever seen him. I'd say this film has a kind of Hills Have Eyes type feel, but in the woods. But it's a good one. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5. Again, not a film that I would buy necessarily, but absolutely worth checking out if you see it on a streaming platform. And I guess 3.5 out of 5 would mean that this is now our highest scoring film of the day so far. Did I just say that Just Before Dawn was the highest rated film of the video? Maybe I did, but it's not a title it's going to hold for very long because Cold Ground is an excellent film. It's found footage, which won't therefore make it for everybody, but I really like the found footage genre, and this is a really good one. It's about a group of scientists type people who are going on this expedition up these Swiss mountains because there's like a remote scientific cabin at the top of the mountain and they've lost contact with it, so they need to go and check out what's happened. So we follow this expedition and it's really creepy, and I didn't know what the threat was going to be in this film. I had no idea whether these characters were going to come across a human threat or a monster threat, and I'm not going to reveal which because I want you to feel how I felt watching this movie, which was a complete mystery of the unknown. Once it is revealed what's going on though, it's an absolute roller coaster ride for the rest of the film, and there's also a strong emphasis on just how cold it is on this mountain. You know, they don't gloss over that part. You know, they don't just have a couple of people now and again going, ooh, bit nippy on this mountain, isn't it? Chuck another stick on that fire. But, you know, it's genuinely a secondary threat because they are really cold as they're going up and they have to spend a lot of time kind of focusing on that. So this is just a really well-made film from beginning to end. This is one that I absolutely would buy and probably will at some point. In fact, I'm going to call this my secret gem of the video, 4 out of 5. We're going to finish off with another found footage film. Sorry about that if you're not into this particular subgenre. So this is about a couple who are camping in California. They're on a kind of Bigfoot expedition. They're not actually hoping to see Bigfoot. They're just kind of visiting certain places where Bigfoot has supposedly been seen by other people. The guy is really into this, his girlfriend not so much, but these characters are very well written. They're both very, very decent people, but the girl is not a natural camper. So after just one night, she's kind of getting all agitated and fed up about the whole thing, and that causes a bit of tension between the two of them. When it is nighttime, there's a lot of good Blair Witch type horror going on. Some of the locals they come across are a bit fed up of people visiting this area just to try and see, you know, Bigfoot footprints. So there's a few things going on, and I won't spoil what happens in the last sort of 15-20 minutes. I'd say the ending is maybe the weakest part of this film, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It had some good characterization, some good slow build-up, some nice scenery. It's, as found footage films go, I wouldn't quite put it in the league of Cold Ground, but it's only one step below, I'd say. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 out of 5. If you're into found footage, you have to see this one at least once. If you're not into found footage, maybe this one's not going to be for you. So we're at the end of the video now. Cold Ground is absolutely my video of the day, but if you're not into found footage, I would maybe make Just Before Dawn your video of your film of the day, if you like. So there we have it. I will try and come back to do another one of these videos at some point in the coming months, but that is the end of today's group of reviews. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.